Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2020 show. I'm your host, Don K. We are live from McGillivray Speedway at 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. And should you come into town for any reason, Indianapolis is a great town, a lot of things to do. You got to make sure you stop by McGillivrays for lunch or dinner. Great food, great service, and the adult beverages are ice cold. Tonight's show is presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, NTT IndyCar Series, and SVRA. Couple things I mentioned. We have a new computer guy. You can still reach him at the same number. And Steve Freeze is the owner, and he makes house calls. An old-time doctor. He's the computer doctor, and you can reach him at the old number, 317-328-0766. And when it comes to your very favorite doctor's visit, I highly recommend Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis from the Indy Dental Group. They are phenomenal. You can make an appointment by calling 317-846-6125. A couple of things I mentioned. It just came out a little bit before I left the house. Fernando Alonso has departed company with McLaren. And there's been some talk about him driving for somebody else. That's just talk, don't really know. Charlie Kimball was a guest at the Race Chasers on Saturday out to Clarion, or whatever it's now called, the Waterfront Hotel. He said that he has a full ride for next year, but he can't announce with whom or who is sponsoring it. But he said it is, and he's scheduled to be on the program in February. Also want to mention that there is a premier, and I say premier, observer in the house. The poor old guy had a birthday Saturday, and he's 82. He had to take a couple of tests to make sure he can still see.
He's 20.
Oh, he's 20. I'm sorry, he's 28.
He's 28. He goes backwards.
Yeah, that's right, 28. And I'm talking about Glenn Timmis.
Happy birthday.
And next week, my first guest is going to be a gentleman. He's a 24-year Marine, retired, Major Kirk Dooley. He's leaving IMS, has left IMS. He's got a new path that he's taking. I think you'll find it quite interesting. So he will be here. Kirk Dooley will be here next week. I call him Major because he retired after 24 years of Major. It's the least I can. My first guest is a gentleman that when he has the time, he always comes. But the business he's in, he doesn't always have the time. A couple kids, that slows a lot of things down. But he is known for winning 2012, 15, and 16 Top Fuel World Championships. He has a total in his career, NHRA career, of 66 NHRA event wins, 16 in the pro stock, and 50 Top Fuel. He was a nationally ranked sprinter, and when Troy Vincent, a former NFL player, married to his cousin, said, I want to start a team, that ended the next college move, started racing. He's one of the good guys in all of sport. Please welcome Mr. Antron Brown.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did I do good?
You hit it right. You hit it perfect.
Yeah.
Hit a grand slam. I love coming here. I love coming here each time.
If I remember right, you were a nationally ranked sprinter.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people don't realize is that, you know, I did so many different things growing up as a kid. From when I was 4 years old, I rode dirt bikes. Started racing. I rode a dirt bike when I was 4 years old. So as they took training wheels off of my pedaling bike, my grandpa had a dirt bike there waiting for me. And what people don't realize was we had 20 acres of land, and we grew up in a very rural area of New Jersey. People think New Jersey City, but I grew up in South Jersey. And I never forget, and I could barely ride the pedaling bike without training wheels. So I get on this thing, he says, boy, the faster you go, you'll stay upright. You go slow, you're gonna fall. So I had this helmet on that was 2 sizes too big. I had the old little Honda Z50 with the big old metal gas tank. You know what I mean? Sat on this thing. I went out in that field. We had one tree on 20 acres of land. One tree.
Let me guess.
And my grandmom goes, Albert, that boy is going to hit that tree. He goes, Dolores, is one tree in all this land. He ain't going to hit that tree. So he said, I won't hit that tree. You know what I did? I hit that tree. And after I hit that tree, my grandpa looked over at my grandmom and says, guess what? You won't hit it again. And I never hit that tree again. It only took once. I learned that tree didn't move.
And you We're going to move up to, you had a full scholarship at Long Island University, but when Troy Vincent said, I want to start a team, that ended that career.
Absolutely. Well, you know, the crazier part, what a lot of people don't realize is that how I got into the sport of drag racing is that my dad and uncle, they were sportsman racers, the weekend warriors, worked hard Monday through Thursday, and we raced Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at a local track. And I used to work on their race vehicle, but then I grew up racing dirt bikes. They didn't have junior dragsters and small race cars for kids to drive like they do now. So I was out in the dirt doing my thing, and then I was trying to turn pro in doing that. And then I got hurt a few times really bad, and then I started drag racing street bikes and stuff like that. And I worked when I was going in college. You know, people go, well, what happened in college? I said, well, my brother was one of those kids that went to school that kept on switching his major. He's supposed to be in college for 4 years, but he made it an 8-year career. And my mom and dad were going broke. You get what I mean? Paying, because he went, like he couldn't stay at home, go to college. He went away and go to college, right? So I'm the second sibling. I'm 6 years younger than my brother, okay? He should be out of school working, and it's my turn, right? So my mom goes, well, son, I don't know what we're going to do for you in college. So I said, you know what? I got hurt real bad, and I'll be honest, I didn't take my SATs, and I didn't take my ACTs because I had this dream I was going to be this professional motocross star, right? So I got hurt real bad, so I went on to a junior college, and I played every sport in high school. Played every sport there was, every stick and ball sport was, and I was really, really fast, so it made me good at a lot of sports, not because of talent, because I was just natural, like I had the athleticism, but I was short, right? So I go, well, I'm just going to walk on this track team. It was a Division I junior college called Mercer. Walked on a track team, and I got a full scholarship. I was the fastest kid on the team. And then before you know it, I didn't even realize I was ranked #1 in the whole country in JUCO for 55-meter indoor dash. And then what happened was I could go to any 4-year school that was Division I in the whole country pretty much to run track and field. And then for the 100 meters, and then 200 meters, I did that event also, and I long jump. But then I had that need for speed because while I was racing track on the short term, I built me a street bike while I was drag racing it. And that's why I met up with Troy Vincent and all his guys. Like, he had a whole bunch of Eagle football players. They used to show up at Atco Raceway, and I go out there with my street bike. They're like, who is this kid? They thought I was 16, and I was like literally like 19, 20 years old. Because I look young, you know what I mean? And that's why I wear my beard now, so people know that I'm at least 30 years old now. You see this? When I shave it off, people still card me when I go to the... And my voice, they think I'm 20. They really think I'm 15, right? But it's all good. I get it all the time. But to make a long story short, Don, that's how I got into it. It was that I did an internship on a professional race team while I was in college, because I was a business major, and it was for Bob Carpenter, and that's how I got into racing. So I literally worked on the race team. It turned into a part-time job. Then that part-time job turned me to testing his motorcycles for him. And once I started testing his bikes, other teams saw me, and it got me to leg in to become a professional racer. And if I literally didn't take that job and did that internship, I probably wouldn't be in front of everybody talking to you today about where I came from and where I'm at. It's just being in the right spot at the right time and taking advantage of the opportunities that was in front of me, like being prepared to take that opportunity.
Got into the bikes. You have in the back of your mind, I really want to drive a Top Fuel. Really want to drive a Top Fuel.
Well, growing up as a kid around the sport, I used to go to the Summer Nationals in Englishtown, New Jersey. So I used to see like Big Daddy Don Garlett, Shirley Moe Downey, Kenny Bernstein, Darrell Gwynn, Mark Oswald. Used to see like Snake, Perdome. You know, you see all these people and you're like, I want to do that. And I never forget, I was 10 years old. It's 1986. I was 10 years old. My dad brought me to the Summer Nationals. I went to Big Daddy's pit. And I went up to him. I'm a little short, little chocolate kid. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, I said, excuse me, Mr. Big Daddy. He goes, yeah, son. I go, why do they call you Big Daddy? You ain't big. You know what I mean? He goes, son, I'm big in heart. Well, I looked at him that day, and he became my hero. And that day is the day he flipped his car over that day. And the car went backwards. He got out and put his hands up in the air, got a standing ovation. And that year, he still went on to win the championship. And I never forget until this day, Big Daddy's always been my hero. And I got him on my speed dial on my cell phone. I talk to him all the time. He tells me to this day, his daughter's like older than me. He tells me all the stuff that he's going to his daughter. She still won't listen to me, Antron. And we talk every day, and it's so funny the stories he tells me, and he still remembers that story of me as a little kid. He goes, "You were that kid, weren't you?" I said, "Big Daddy, how you know that was me?" He goes, "That smile hasn't changed. You still look like you're still young." I said, "Thanks, Big Daddy." I didn't know if that was a good or a bad thing.
So did you want, again, that connection did you want when you were racing motorcycles? You got 16 event victories. Did you looking to move up?
Well, I always loved the fuel ranks. And the fuel ranks were always the cream of the crop in our sport. But me, coming from where I came from and just being a professional pro stock motorcycle racer, never knew I would have the opportunity to become a fuel racer. You know, you do the math on it. It's 20 professional nitro teams that really travel the tour, like every race in the fuel ranks. Well, that's 20 drivers out of like thousands of drivers that want to do it. So who's going to back me and give me that opportunity? Like every time you take a fuel car down the track, that's $7,000 just to fire it up. You burn $700 worth of nitro fuel just sitting there idling it, not even whacking on the gas. You blow it up, that's $80,000 gone. You get what I mean? So you're talking about, you know how this the thing. One team owner said it right. You want to become a millionaire racing a fuel car? Start with 10 million, you end with $1 million. All right? That's what it is. You get what I mean? And for me, it was always a big dream that I never thought that I can actually achieve and get there, you know, and one day down the road you might see it where hopefully one day I can actually, like, you know, actually be a team owner one day where I can give some other people that opportunity. That's my main goal and dream.
So did you start with 5 million? Now you're working your way down to $1 million? Is that how it works?
No, man, I started off with 15, and I'm working down to 1.
So you'd like to eventually own a team?
Absolutely. That's been the goal that we've been working on. But you know what? Right now, I drive for Don Schumacher Racing, and Don has done so many great things in our sport. What a lot of people don't realize, you're talking about a guy that has, as a team owner, has won 17 world championship titles, literally in the last 20 years of racing. He's been in the Hall of Fame for anything that you can say that somebody's been in the Hall of Fame. The Motorsports Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame, the Drag Racing Hall of Fame, the International Racing Hall of Fame of Motorsports. And then on top of that, the innovations he brought to our sport. I mean, Don has done so many things. It's just been a privilege to actually race for DSR. But at the end of the day, you got to look and say at the end of the day is like, you see where our sport's going at and where it's growing at. And who's going to be the next Don Schumacher? Who's going to be the next John Force? Who's going to be the next Kenny Bernstein? You know what I mean? And that's the thing I think our sport really needs to go to that next level.
I've been told when you and Force are up doing interview together, you knock his socks off.
Whew. Have y'all been around John Force?
Yes.
Y'all know who John Force is, right? Right? That man is crazy. Okay? And the thing about it is, have you ever heard John Force get speechless? Huh? I made the man speechless. That's what I got. Because I literally told him one day, he was sitting and looking at me, because you know he's got some beautiful daughters, right?
Not bad.
Oh, they're beautiful. He's got gorgeous. I can't believe they're his daughters. I give all the credit to his wife. You know what I mean? John looks like a cartoon character. Right? I tease him all the time. So the funniest part of it was one day he was sitting next to me, and we're at this charitable foundation for brakes. We're at a pancake breakfast. It's like, you know, being responsible and keeping kids safe, right? So we're at this whole deal. Me and him's got the microphone, and John's doing what he does, is talking his craft and making people laugh and everything else like that. Then I just looked at him and say, "Hey, John, you know what?" I said, "Brother," I look at your doors all the time, because Brittany was there with him at that day, right? I said, "Boy, you got some beautiful daughters." I said, "Courtney's taken." I said, "Ashley is married." I looked over, I said, Brittany, I must tell you, girl. I said, I don't know how your dad made some beautiful daughters like you. I said, boy, if I was not married, I said, girl, your last name will be Brown right now. And I said, and John, you'll have some caramel babies. He looked at me, he was like, I don't know how to respond to that. Don't know how to respond to that. And that's what he said. And I had him. And it was so funny to see him just be speechless for a second. And then he dug himself a hole. He had his wife there with him, and he goes, kid, I've been in alleyways people's never seen. I've been in places that people never know about. He goes, hell, you could be my kid. And I looked at him, and Lori puts her head down, his wife. I said, Mom, you left me in the oven a little too long, didn't you? Didn't you? Right? And the thing about it is, I look back at John, I said, John, that's why my mom gets mad every time you see you on TV. She's still waiting for that child support to come in. So we have fun with it all the time. You know what I mean?
I had John Force in here one night, sitting right where you were. I asked one question, and he started. I went over there and sat down. There was no sense of me sitting here. He won't stop.
He doesn't stop, does he, Don?
On and on and on.
I love him to death, but you know what? He is... You know, we just had MLK Day just a couple days ago. It was Monday, right? And the thing about it is, when you're talking about a man who lived a dream, you look at John Force. The man used to be a truck driver, used to be a logger. You know what I mean? And that man never stops working. Like, everybody goes, well, John won so many championships. He's great. He's doing this. He's great. He's a great talker. That's not what makes the man great. What makes that man great in my eyes, has always been one of my heroes, is that he literally comes in this sport and he never stops. He's always on the grind. To this day, the man is 70 years old and he does not stop. If you come see him, he'll sign your stuff. The man... He never switches off. I flew on airplanes with him. Now, you get him on the airplane, he'll be like this. He's like, he's on off switch. Yeah, kid, I was blah, blah, blah. That's how he is. And then when the flight lands, yeah, kid, remember that I was talking about that? I was like, where was I? I said, John, that was 2 hours ago. You know what I mean? And that's what I really admire about him. That's what really makes me look at him and really keeps me driving. Because that's what makes John Force great. It's not the wins. It's not all the stuff that he's done, like on the racetrack. It's how he works off the racetrack, and that's what you start finding out about people that have done stuff in this sport that puts them at that elite level. And that's the same way Don Schumacher is. He goes, Antron, it's not that I have more talent than my competitors or the people that I work against. Is that I put the work in over and over, and I strive, and that's what keeps me ahead of them.
That's what it takes is effort. How many mechanics are on your car?
You got 9. 9. Well, you got 2 crew chiefs and 7 people that actually work on the race car.
I was at the PRI show.
Yeah.
And you had your little gang wandering about.
Uh-huh.
And there was a guy by the name of Brian Karate.
Yeah.
Karate. Is he joining Don Schumacher Racing in any way?
I can't talk about that right now.
Oh, okay.
I can't talk about that, but you know, the thing about it is Brian was hanging out with us, and we've got some news coming out. You'll find out all the news that's coming out. We thought that was going to be announced pretty soon, but we have a lot of good things coming around the corner, especially for our Matco Tools Top Fuel Dragster. We have some additions coming on the team, and we have a lot of things that are happening that's going to put us back in that stance where we can go after that championship for many more years to come, and that's what we're setting ourselves up for.
Now, last year was not your best year.
No, it wasn't. It was you know what though? It was one of those years where we struggled. We actually did good though. We're number 2 in points for the majority of the year, all the way through the middle of the season to the countdown. We struggled when the countdown hit, to be honest. We went to countdown 3rd place in points, and we fell all the way back to 9th when the countdown ended. And we just had a lot of bad moves. We zigged when we should have zagged. Then we zagged when we should have zigged. And that's how hard it is in fuel racing. But the coolest part is, for me, it really defined me over that last year because it showed me what my team guys were made of. Because through all that, we never wavered, and we learned. Like, if you keep on winning and you're doing the same things, you're never learning. But we struggled enough last year where we learned a lot. We learned what not to do. Right? I'm just being honest. But the thing about it is that it didn't break us down. It made us regroup, and it made me regroup as an individual and say, what do we need to go to this next level? How do we get back to where we were and be better to where we were at? And it made me really sit back and think, what's the next step to make that happen? And made a lot of changes. But the bad part is I just can't talk about them right now. But we made some good strides, some good changes. And actually, it'll be out at the beginning. I'm thinking by the middle of next week, all of our announcements will be out. And then you could talk about it on your next show next Tuesday.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Whose idea was it to put the canopy on the top fuel car?
Actually, that came out. I had a bad. That was all Don. That was all Don Schumacher. And actually, all the people at the race shop, Mike Green and Neil Strasballs would have headed it up at our race shop, and that was back in 2012. We started developing it. We had it out in Tony's car, and we ran at a couple sample races, and we were all about it. So I had one incident where off the starting line, we actually broke a hub on the race car, and then my car literally just at 100 miles an hour broke the tire off of it. It skidded sideways, flipped on the side on the guardrail of the racetrack, and it was shooting flames out the car, lighting the oil off the ground, coming back at the canopy, the driver compartment where I sat at, and it was torching me. And I don't know about you, but I felt like a shish kebab on the grill. You know when that grease drops down from that beef and it goes right up at you? I was like, Lord have mercy. I was like, boy, I said, I'm already honey golden brown. Don't make me no darker. I want to stay medium. I don't want to be well done. So the bad part of it was that's what really taught us that we need to start getting our drivers away from harm's way. You get what I mean? And then Mike Green and Neil, they went after it. They went after it with a guy named James Brendo from Hondo Boats. And that's when it really all started for us. And it got implemented in our car, and thank God it did, because my first race in 2013, my car blew up through the race traps. It blew up at 318 mile an hour, and it took the rear wing off the car, and I went airborne. And I flipped end over end, did somersaults in the air. And when you see sky, and you turn around, you see the start line, you know it's not a good day. Right? So, and then I actually walked away from that. And the car blew up, fire all around, didn't get no burns on me, no fire got to me, and I was able to walk away from that incident with some bumps and bruises. So definitely is what we needed.
Speaking of you as a young lad hitting the only tree in a 20-acre piece of property, I recall, and I can't remember when it was or where it was, at a racetrack that only had one tree on the track, and it was off the track and just sitting in a grassy area. And Tony hit it. His car obviously flipped.
That was Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
What are you talking about? I was on a pro stock motorcycle. Tony's car blew up. It actually didn't blow up. The car broke in half. The back ends, that's when we had the wrong problems with the back ends. I was riding pro stock motorcycle back then. Car broke like this, went airborne. The front tire broke came off his car. It actually I'm coming down the back return road back to the pit. The tire went through a trailer. It went through the trailer, right? In and out the other side, and then bounced off another trailer, hit the ground, and bounced right in front of me, almost hit me on my pro stock bike while I was being pushed back. And he actually broke his leg in that accident. Yeah. And that was crazy. That was wild. And I wanted to drive one of those things. What's wrong with me? Right?
Well, it seems to me that Don Schumacher's in the sport for the right reason. First off, he wants to win.
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Number two is he's smart enough to know this is what we need to help us win. Do it.
Yes. And Don, he's always been at the helm of that deal. You know what I mean? And that's why we've won so many championships. That's why we compete at a high level. And he expects to win all the time. And that's why his mindset goes hand in hand, because you got to put the work in to do it. And that's why I guess he's never came and cracked a whip on me, because I'm the most hardest critic on myself over anybody. And you want to work hard and do it. You want to show up every weekend to win those races. And that's how our race team is built. And Don has implemented at the front. He gets nothing but the best people, and he wants to have the best parts and pieces. And now that's why he has grown DSR to where it's at right now.
I understand with all the racing he's involved in, he's there every weekend, so you know he's got to spend a little time in between talking about it. But he just bought another battery company just recently.
He did?
Yeah.
What battery company? I don't know that.
I don't know. I just heard that.
I didn't know. I mean, he's all over the place. Well, Don, he's retired now from like the battery charger business. He's still got his foot in it, like a leg in there, but he's never there. He stays in Florida. He stays in Stewart, Florida, and he goes deep sea fishing. And I go deep sea fishing with him too. And I tell you what, he goes places. He fishes places that you never knew existed on this planet. And that's what he thoroughly enjoys. And the other time he has his heads in the books on these race teams. He can tell you if you just bought a spark plug last weekend. Hey, Antron, I see that you bought $5,000 worth of spark plugs. Hey, whoa. How many tires you need for that last race? Like, he's got that. Hey, I see that we used 5 more gallons of nitro at that last race, and you only went to the semifinals. Where'd that 5 gallons of nitro go? I mean, that man is on it. He's got spreadsheets and the highlighter. And when he calls, you better. I'm going to tell you. I got to tell you this quick story. I got to tell you, this is some funny stuff right here. This will have you laughing, right?
Sure.
This is a Don Schumacher story, and he's got to own up to it. He owns up to it. He called me one day. He goes, well, Antron, I see that Don Schumacher Racing is buying batteries and chargers from Antron Brown Racing, Inc. And I want to know why we're buying batteries from you. And I see that you sold to your race team. It costs $500, and I see 3 batteries and a charger. I said, well, Don, let me explain something to you. Okay? That is very true. I said, did you know from Leahy, we buy 1 battery, which is not even on the same level as a nickel metal hydrate battery, and it costs us $500 for 1 battery. Did you tell my other teams? Are they buying batteries and chargers from me? I think you need to go tell them so they can buy them from you. So, and he goes, you have a good day, Antron. I'll talk to you later. Thank you very much. Click. And I never forget that day. And after that, he goes to the shop. He called every crew chief. I didn't have to call him or talk to him. Every crew chief says, Antron, I heard that you got these batteries and these battery chargers that we need to buy from you. So that's how that all changed. That's when all the LiPo batteries came out. And I had to deal with this hobby shop where I got everything at cost. So I said, Don, I'm not making no money off you. I'm just giving you a better deal. When you say that, that's like music to his ears. Performance at a cheaper price. I like that, Antron. Did you let everybody else know? You have anything else we need to know about?
Tell them you're saving up to start your own team.
Bro, I don't know if I can save up enough to do that. I'm hoping that Don will just be like, here you go, Antron. Here's the keys to the mansion. I don't want them headaches either. Trust me.
What does it cost to run a team for a year? Do you have any idea?
I would say, honestly, to run a race team for a year is around the $5 million mark. You need at least $5 million because you need that for if anything goes wrong, goes bad, covers all your deal. I mean, it's really expensive to run one of these deals. And when you look at just the travel cost, just hotels for one team a year, you're looking at $300,000 just for one team in hotel costs. Not including the airplane flights, rental car expense. For a semi-truck, to give you an example, a semi-truck, just one truck, each team has 2 trucks and trailers. You're looking at about $40,000 in diesel fuel a year for one truck. Because we travel close to 50,000 miles a year, and traveling with one truck and trailer. So it adds up. All this stuff, it just is this cubic dollars where it just keeps on compounding itself. You know what I mean? And we go through, honestly, without putting salaries and stuff in it, you probably go through about hardcore parts and everything without putting people's salaries and stuff in it. You're talking about almost $5,000 worth of hardcore parts and pieces, oil, like nitro fuel. Like one drum of oil costs you about anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 for a 55-gallon drum. You go through that in one weekend in just oil. You get what I mean? So it's just like you just think about the cost, and that's stuff that you just use and you throw it away. Like tires, 2 runs on a set of slicks. One tire costs you $1,200 for one tire, so it's $2,400 for a set of Goodyears.
Only good for 2 runs?
2 runs. Sometimes it's 1 run. When a track gets real cold, you pull them apart. There'll be 1 run Nellies. You run them in their garbage. You know what I mean? Blower belts. They're $300 a piece. 1 run. And they're gone.
Poof.
Just like this. I told you, brother, it's like if you want to go racing, just take that money and put it in the campfire and light it up. It's warm. It's going to be warm for short, too, because that paper goes quick, don't it? All right?
Well, all I can say is I'm sure we all wish you nothing but the best next year. I think a 4-time winner would be nice. The picture I've got of you is standing with only 3.
That's a shame, isn't it?
There it is. Picture with you with your 3. In fact, the last time he came here, he brought his latest win.
You know what I could tell you about that picture? You see I got the trophies, right? My wife's got all the checks. You don't see the checks in that picture, right? Right? I got the trophies. My wife's in every picture with the checks like this. And boy, as soon as we won it that year in Vegas, we were in the winner's circle. Everybody celebrated. I said, "Where's my wife at?" I had to call her. She says, "Baby, I'm already in the outlet malls."
Well, I enjoy having you, as I'm sure everybody here does. And
Yes.
And they're here to see you. They're not here to see me.
Well, I always appreciate it. I always love being on, and it's always cool to come here to McGilvery's out here, man. I just remember just always coming out here since I was racing pro stock bikes. Been on your show, Don. I love you like a brother, man.
Did you work with Dave Schultz?
That's how I met you.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Schultz was like my mentor. He used to bring me out here. Like I came here, I was this little scrawny kid from New Jersey. I came out here in '97, not even racing. I worked with Dave Schultz to build my first pro stock bike from scratch. Before I got to race my first motorcycle, I had to build it with Dave Schultz.
Has his genius for building better, faster bikes continued? Is there anybody that's in his category?
You know, I think that knack is what's missing in this sport a lot. You have a lot of people that spend a lot of money and have other people do stuff for them. Where Dave Schultz was a pioneer before his time, where he did everything, and it was about all the small things making big things. And that's the attitude I take to the Top Fuel world, as I took from Dave, is working on every aspect. And the more you know about your race vehicle, the better driver that you can be. Because he was more of an engineer than just a racer. He wasn't the best racer out there. He just outthought and out MacGyvered everybody out there in the race field, is what he did, what Dave Schultz did. And I tell you what, and all his stuff was spot on, clean, meticulous, and perfect.
Fast.
Yes, that's how he was fast. Critical. All those small points.
I had him here a couple times. In fact, he was at the PRI show, and I talked to him, and he wasn't well.
No.
Can you do next week? And he said, "Yeah, make it to next."
I know. I miss him dearly. That's my hero, man. That was my mentor coming into sport. And every day that I go past, I always think about Dave. They used to call him the milkman. You know that when he used to race pro stock bike, he would wear an all leather suit. They called him the milkman. And you know what I used to tell people? He says, "AB, what's going to be your nickname?" I said, "I'm going to be the chocolate milkman." And I'm coming. And David goes, "Why you want to be the chocolate milkman?" I said, "Because Dave, chocolate is sweeter. It's sweeter. It's sweeter." He used to laugh at me all the time, Dave did.
Well, we wish you nothing but the best.
Absolutely. I always love being on here. But you know what, Don?
What?
I got one more thing to add before I leave.
Okay.
This is the last thing, I promise y'all. I won't bore you no more. I promise you. My son Anson, when he was 6 years old, he's 15 now. He was with my wife. They were in the grocery store, right? My wife swiped her debit card. And my son looked at her like, okay. Hey, Mom, what's that? Is that a credit card? He goes, no, son, that's a debit card. Well, Mom, so what's that do? That comes from a checking account. He goes, okay. So he got quiet and didn't say nothing. Then he went over to like Target, went shopping. My wife swiped that debit card again. My son goes, Mom, where does that money come from? He goes, well, son, your dad, every time he gets paid, he puts the money in the account, and that's how we go grocery shopping and shopping with. And then my son Anson goes, Mom, you use that everywhere you go. Does it ever run out? She goes, it hasn't ran out on us yet. And then they went to Walmart. They went shopping again that day. My wife used the card again. And he goes, Mom, do you ever put money on that card? She goes, no, son, that's all your dad. He looked back at her, Mom, I'm never getting married. And the moral of my story is, my son brought his girlfriend to the house the other day, and he took her out to dinner. I say, hey, son, remember what you told me when you were 6 years old? You just paid for your girlfriend's dinner. Think about it. He looked at me like this. Dad, now I understand. I said, I know you do. I said, don't let them sweet lips fool you. It's going to get to your debit card one day, too.
Yes, folks, he is a 3-time Top Fuel World Champion, Antron Brown.
Thank you all so much. I love y'all.
I'll try and catch you during the season sometime. I'll try and find you. My next two guests are on their way up here in a moment, and while they're coming here, I will remind you that if you want to see what these guys and gals love about driving Indy cars, you got to take a ride in an Indy racing experience. You can go in there, and you can go in there at IndyRacingExperience.com, and in the promo box, listen to this one, DK1, get you 50% discount. DK1, or you can call Sean to 317-243-7171. Tell her you're looking for it and you got a DK1 promo, and she'll probably laugh at you, I suppose. Is it time for you to get insurance for your home, your car, or your commercial property? Then do what I've done and a lot of people have done. BP Insurance. Call Mike Pardee. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. Call him, make an appointment, talk to him. He'll take care of you, he'll help you. His number is 317-248-0070. That's VP Insurance and Speedway, 317-248-0070. And if you're into vintage cars and NHRA, Trans Am, you got to subscribe to Speed Tour. Go to svra.com and subscribe to it. First Class magazine. It's really good. And you'll see some of the cars you used to see back running again, and you'll also see some of the drivers today are in the cars driving. So if you get a chance, do it. It's worth it. And the other thing is, if you're interested in a vintage Indy car, the place to go is the Grand King Shops, located 8155 Crawfordsville Road. They have cars there for sale, and if you've got one that needs to be restored, they can handle it. So give them a call. The number is 317-820-3595. My next two guests are two gentlemen that are in the broadcast world. The young man sitting next to me got his start broadcasting. He got a tape recorder for Christmas, and he'd listen to ball games or watch them, and he'd broadcast. And that got him to become the voice of the Indianapolis 500. He's been in broadcasting for many years. He had to suffer with me for 3 or 4 or 5 years as his spotter. And we had a lot of fun, and we griped and complained about the same things, but nobody ever heard us. He is, as I said, the lead broadcaster on the IndyCar Series and the voice of the 500. Please welcome Mr. Mark Jaynes.
Thank you, Don.
And sitting next to him is a guy, I don't know, I guess I know him. He's a former teacher in broadcasting and engineering. He used to go to the races and take care of getting the sound from the track to the world. Excuse me. And when Wally retired, they said, "Hey, Chris, how would you like to do this?" And he said, "Really?" So he's now back on the road for the most part. I'm sure we'll find out what's going on. Please welcome Mr. Chris Pollock.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chris, why did you give up teaching? To hang with this guy?
Absolutely.
Oh, boy.
Gonna pass up that offer.
I'm sure not. So how come you quit teaching?
Well, the job came. I've been with the network for 25 years on a part-time basis. Opportunity to go full-time was good to pass up. Spend more time at the Speedway. What's wrong with that?
Nothing that I can think of. I spend a lot of time there, but I don't get paid. So you got me beat on that one. Do you handle everything now? You flights and motels and all that?
That's
food?
all me. Yes.
I'll talk to you about getting your good rates on a hotel.
Okay. Talk later.
It won't work, but I'll talk to you about it.
I'll see what I can do.
The thing that always impressed me when I first started hanging around and with Mark and so forth in that trailer, production trailer, crying out loud, the last man standing is just what's there. Between Mark, Dave the King, it was hilarious. And of course, Chris would stick his 2 cents in once, and if anybody gave him any crap, you want to see this? Now talk. So it was a fun time. And Mark, obviously, talking into a tape recorder paid off.
Yeah, it did for sure. I mean, it's hard to believe this is, Chris celebrated his 25th anniversary last year, and this will be my 25th year with the network. And I think, as I've said before on the show, when I came home from my first 500 in '96, my wife said, "How do you think it went?" And I said, "Well, I think they seem to be pleased." I said, "But if I never get to do it again, I'll have got to do it one more than a lot of guys get to." So everything else has been house money as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, it's hard to believe it's been 25 years for sure.
I can believe it. I hung around with you for 5
Thank
or
you.
6.
And by the way, we're not following him again. I mean, we got to go first. That's all there is to it. I mean, he owns this room. He still owns this room. So we got to go first next time. You play the JV first, and then you put the varsity on in sports terms, so everybody understands.
Well, I thought I'd use him to kind of warm up the crowd.
Well, he could have stayed till late, and I'm sure they wouldn't have minded, and we wouldn't have either. Very entertaining stuff. A class guy for sure.
Oh, without
we
any
wish him
question.
well this year.
What surprised you the most when we'd like you to be the voice of the 500? What surprised you the most since you've been there, you've gotten there?
How hard anchoring the 500 is. I mean, I've had the luxury of working with Bob Jenkins and Paul Page and Mike King and Doug Rice with PRN and the late Gary Lee as an anchor, and all were really good influences, positive influences on me. Yes, Gary, God rest your soul, you were a positive influence on me. Those of you that know Gary know what I'm talking about. But Mike King, for one, told me, he said, you'll be amazed at just how physically, mentally, and emotionally draining that day is, and he was spot on. I mean, the first time I signed off, my first year as anchor, my hands were literally shaking, and each and every year it takes about a day or so to kind of feel like that because your mind's moving so fast for so long, and then all of a sudden you just shut it off. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do. Now the other events, it's not that we don't get geared up for Long Beach or Barber or whatever, but that's a vastly different animal. I mean, it's enjoyable. Don't get me wrong, we love it, but I think just being a part of all of it and the magnitude of it, and from our broadcast vantage point, being able to see it. This past year, we were on the 4th floor of the media center, and there was an observation deck out there where they used to do stand-ups for television. We actually did our pre-race show from outside this year. I think it's the first time it's ever been done in the history of the network, and that really kind of got the blood flowing, being out there among all of it, the pre-race festivities and everything.
Chris, you were the guy that pushed the buttons and plugged the cords in, so if they got out of line, you just pull it out. How did you get into that aspect of communication?
I don't have a very good voice. I'm better geared for being behind the scenes. I don't know. It just something about that. Just I liked. You know, I kind of got in. I was in college at IUPUI, and somebody came in and gave a guest speaker, and it was a DJ from one of the local radio stations. I thought it'd be kind of cool to be a DJ, and so I started doing a little more in telecommunications at school, and I just kind of got a knack for the pushing the buttons and the editing and that sort of thing, and kind of fell into that role behind the scenes, and that's kind of where I feel like I fit.
When you step back from being on site and controlled everything from here, was that difficult? Was there anybody there that could make sure they gave you what you needed here to send it out?
No, it's pretty seamless. We have a really good engineer. Rick Evans is our engineer. Make sure everything works and make sure we can connect to the local event. For those of you who don't know, what we do now is everything that's fed from the track is fed back to our studio here in Indianapolis, and then we feed it up to the satellites and out to the radio stations and on to Sirius XM from here. So we have an engineer back here. That was me for the last 8 years. Pushing the buttons back here, but we also have our engineer on site down there who's kind of mixing all their microphones and feeding it back up here. So, and for the first 18 years I was with the network, I traveled and we did everything on site. And so we kind of changed up the way things went, and I think it was seamless. I don't think we had any issues. Me being back here versus me being on the road.
Did your wife like it better when you were here for the last 8 years?
I believe so.
You think so? I think she's happy to hear bye-bye. You leave and you say, I'll see you Monday or Sunday.
We'll see how that goes.
You know, it always amazed me, that truck, and I think Royer built it, if I'm not mistaken, and it had almost everything in it, and it was amazing. I mean, there's all these plugs and buttons and dash, meters, and I had no idea how it worked, but it seemed like, has that been updated, or is that still...
That's no longer around.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's gone.
What happened to it?
I don't know what happened to it.
Maybe it went to Ben Davis?
It's been sold. We are currently have a small, I guess you'd call it studio, engineering area in the back of one of the TV production trucks. That's where our engineer sits, and back to Indianapolis.
Relegated to sit with NBC?
Yes.
I thought you were guys were pretty independent.
We share some space.
The numbers of listeners has changed over the last couple of years, if I'm not mistaken. I think last year was a bonanza year for you, was it not?
Yeah, we averaged somewhere between 15 and 20 million regularly for the Indy 500, which is an awesome number. But the thing that makes it tough to gauge is we have the TuneIn app that we've talked about before. We have Sirius and XM, and a few other conduits by which we can get the word out. And it's difficult to measure the numbers there. We know it's a lot for sure, and it's an awesome responsibility, and it's one that we certainly don't take lightly. And I mean, we still, even with technologies that exist with email and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and things of that nature, I'm sure Chris will realize that even more so, but Wally has made us privy to the fact that there are still a fair amount of people that write cards and letters and send them on a regular basis to the IMS radio network from points all over the globe to tell us how much they enjoy what we do each and every year, and it's a privilege to do that for sure.
You also, Chris, now do you take over selling, getting more stations to join your network?
That's what I've been working on for the last couple of weeks is signing up our affiliates, making sure that the ones who were here last year who carry our broadcast can do it again.
Gotten any new ones?
Did get one new one.
Cool.
Absolutely. We're got a new station in West Lafayette and Lafayette, Indiana. This signed on today.
All that way? Wow.
All that way.
Yeah, well, if Mark was outside, they could listen. If the wind was right, they could hear him talking. Your new position entails a lot more than walking into a studio here in town on a Sunday, Saturday, whatever day. Again, now you've got a lot more responsibility. Try and make this guy and his other cohorts look good and sound good.
Can't make us look good.
That's true. I wouldn't want to try that. Yeah, there's a lot more responsibility now. I'm not pushing the buttons anymore or turning the levers up and down. There's someone else doing that.
Hell, they hire you for then? You don't know.
Not to do that.
Oh, okay. I just wondered.
See, he asked me before we came on, because he hadn't been on the show for a number of years. I said, you take, at some point during the show, Don's going to ask you a question, and the response is going to be, Don, what the hell are you asking me that for? What are you thinking? So this is what I was talking about,
right? What school were you teaching?
I was at Warren Central on the east side of town.
And who replaced you? 5-watt light bulb or?
Wow.
Now he's on a roll.
A little more difficult than that. He's on a roll. I had a really good instructional assistant who actually went through our program. I taught there for 22 years in the TV radio department. And we have an instructional assistant who taught or who went through the program and graduated about 5 or 6 years ago. And she came back a couple years ago and became the assistant. And she knows her stuff. And so they hired her. I actually recommended her, told her this when I got this new job that I went to her first. I said, apply for my position. And she stepped up and she's doing it. As far as I know, she's doing very well. It's only been about 3 weeks, but.
Nobody's called you up and said, what's this, did they?
She hasn't called me yet to say, how do I do this or how do I do that? So she's, no news is good news there.
What, Chris, as a technician in the broadcast industry, are you a race fan?
Absolutely.
You get to see any of the race?
Not much.
That's what I
It'll be a little different this year because I'll be on site and I'll be up in the booth. In the past, for the last 8 years, I was here in Indianapolis and I would watch it on TV in my little studio, and it wasn't on site. Prior to that, I was either in the truck, watching on a monitor, as far as watching the race, but behind the scenes, you're behind the scenes. But this year, I think it's going to be different because I'll be up there with Mark in the booth. So I got a view at the tracks where we have a decent booth where we have a view.
I see. Are you responsible for some of the things that he says? I mean, if he says,
I'm not responsible for anything that comes out of Mark's mouth.
Really?
Yeah, I lobbied to anyone I could and anyone that would listen for Chris to replace Wally. It's 25 years. And he knows the ins and outs of what we do and how we do it. And I think especially over the last 4 years that I had been the anchor, we probably worked more closely together the last 4 years than we ever had. I mean, we started building the pre-race show for the 500 usually in March. There was a tremendous trust factor there between the two of us, and I would say the only concern that I have is losing him in master control, and we've talked a little bit about once we get to May that he might not on race day relinquish that altogether, although I think we've found a more than competent replacement that he was able to bring in and train a few times, a young man by the name of Sam Rumsa. Sam's a race fan, and I think he gets it. And I have all the confidence in the world in Sam, but it will be different when we get to St. Pete here in a few weeks to look over and see Chris sitting next to me instead of Wally. That probably will make me smile, quite frankly, but that's. Yeah, but we'll miss Wally for sure. I mean, 17 years of loyal service to the radio network, and he I don't know, he must have been socking money away because he's been retired less than a month and he's bought a house and a new car. So I don't know. That's not a very sound retirement plan, I don't think, but good for him anyway. So.
Will it bother you? I mean, Wally used to come up and he'd have the shrimp cocktail.
Yeah, that never happened. Wally never brought shrimp cocktail. Yeah, we didn't even get an Arby's coupon from Wally. I mean, we just.
Well, Chris, are you going to baby sit these guys?
There will be no more shrimp cocktails or Arby's commercials. Or
well, how about a bucket full of White Castle?
Why are you asking me this?
Just for the hell of it.
He's a quick study. He's a quick study. You've got to ask Chris about his brush with greatness. Now, he doesn't have to go into full detail and give full disclosure. But Chris Pollock, ladies and gentlemen, once upon a time was the show producer for the gentleman who is currently the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence.
Absolutely. for about 4 years when Mike was in town and producing his radio broadcast. He was on about 15 to 20 stations across Indiana, and went on every day from 9 to noon, and probably led into like a Rush Limbaugh or G. Gordon Liddy or whatever it was at that time on various radio stations. I was producing his show.
Oh. Did he ever invite you to Washington to hang?
I haven't talked to him since.
Oh.
Actually, that's not true. We've before he was vice president, we brushed into each other once in a while. And
He came up when he was governor.
when he was governor, he came
Yeah.
to the booth and we talked briefly. And
Oh,
since then, no.
took a flight, I forget, Florida, I think, somewhere, back into the airport for the private planes. I forget what it's called. We pull in and I look out and I see United States of America plane. And people in us, Sharon and her daughter. And I said, guess who's here to see me? The hell are you talking about? I said, wait till the plane turns. Turn and look out. God, that's a presidential plane. I said, yeah. He knew I was coming. He came out to say hello.
I wouldn't doubt that.
I would. But
I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt.
I know. That's good. Thank you. But while he was there, and he wasn't even there at the time, they wouldn't let us leave. What's the problem? He's not even on property. Well, you can't go. You had to sit there for what, about almost an hour, I think.
Yeah, we had to jump through some hoops when he came to the 500 a couple of years ago to
Oh,
get
I'm sure.
Dave out to turn 2 to do the interview. I mean, we would have loved to have had him in the booth, but we sent someone out to turn 2 to the suites where he was to interview him. Security issues, obviously. You know, Chris, not the only change that we're making to the network. Can I go ahead and make our...
Well, of course.
Okay, well, as you know, Anders Krohn has a company called Coforce. Anders has done an outstanding job the past 2 years as our driver analyst, but happy for him, sad for us that business has grown to the point where Anders could no longer continue as our driver analyst. And we were happy that over the last 2 years that we were able to avoid any lawsuits thanks to Anders. So he's leaving just in time. But we'll miss him, and we were the benefits and the listeners were of his passion and his enthusiasm and his incredible knowledge. And he'll stop by and do a guest bit for us every now and then. But I got a text message at Laguna Seca last year and had a quick meeting. It didn't last very long. Someone had made himself available this year to be our driver analyst, and we're able to get an agreement reached between he and Chris and Wally, and we're happy to announce that at St. Pete that our good friend Davey Hamilton will rejoin us as driver analyst this year. Yeah, we're happy about that too. Thank you.
I got this question for you, Chris, from the peanut gallery from somewhere. I don't know where it came from. It says, for Chris, what is your Twitter profile? I don't even know what that is.
My Twitter,
Bang.
You don't use that much.
I don't use that much.
No, he doesn't use
Twitter.
Twitter much.
I think it's just at Chris Pollock. It
Yeah, I
might be
think
either
that's-
at Chris Pollock or Chris.Pollock. But I need to look into that.
I think you should. Talk to this guy. He's on there. I just saw something he put on today.
Yeah.
You use Twitter a lot.
Yeah,
Mark's all over Twitter.
Yeah, it benefits. I actually have to run 2 accounts. I run the one for Monrovia High School in addition to mine. But during the season in particular, it really comes in handy. I mean, if you follow the race teams, you get information and announcements and things like that really, fast. And it's part of our fabric today, whether we like it or not. I mean, you have to engage in it some for sure. Yeah, a lot of people don't, and that's okay.
I read a lot of Twitter. I don't post a lot.
Yeah, and that's okay too. That's a good idea for people who want to follow what's going on. You don't have to post anything to be a part of it.
Well,
Absolutely.
I read his stuff. Most of it I don't understand, but I read it anyway. What do you think of the television? Has it improved? Has NBC stepped up, put something good on the air for fans to watch?
I think it's important for the series that it has one network home. And I think that certainly they've made a commitment. It's going to be interesting to see how that commitment gets massaged, if you will, with the new ownership. I think there's some elements and some aspects of it that'll change. I think that they're all in. I mean, they're committed to it, and they want to see it succeed. And when it succeeds, believe it or not, it's connected to how well we succeed and how well the team succeed, and the tracks of the promoters. So, I won't say that it was quote unquote broken, but I think it floundered for a while, and so there's no quick fix, and you have to exercise some patience. But I see indications that it's certainly that part of the business is headed in the right direction, sure. And I like all of those guys that cover the events for NBC. One or two of them used to work for us, Kevin Lee and Lee Diffie's a good guy, and I think they're all passionate about the sport and really put forth a good effort each and every weekend.
I'm trying to get Terry Lingner in here first part of February. I told him who I had on the 4th, and he said, with him, you don't need me. I said, yeah, I do, actually. See what because he had meetings for the last couple of weeks out in New York, so I know there's some changes. Funny thing, I had NBC Gold last year. I said, I haven't seen anything. Want my money? So I put it up, hit the enter button. Beep, 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 you've been invaded, you've been this, you've been that, call us at this number. This is a Microsoft Office. Well, if you know what Microsoft's logo is, it's not a square flag, it's wave. I saw that, I went, do not turn off, you lose everything. Bingo, turn it back on, it's gone. But I want to get NBC Gold, I haven't seen anything yet. Not that you know that, but
I don't know anything about it.
sorry to hear that.
I would suggest downloading the TuneIn app.
If I do that, I'm going to have to,
In addition to your pursuit of NBC Gold, I would say.
yeah, on my phone. That'll work really well.
You do that on a flip phone?
Yes.
Just check it. Just check it.
Well, I tried to buy one of those cup mounter phone things, and I found out since I plug in the side, it doesn't work. I don't understand it, but
I bet it's one of those bricks that they had back in like the 80s, right? That's what you're carrying around, isn't it? You probably have an 8-track player in your car too, don't you?
No, we don't. Sharon said, no, we don't have an 8-track. It was been fun for me to be a part of, and worked with you for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. Some of the silly stuff we did and said and cackled, I'm surprised we didn't fall out of the grandstands on a couple of occasions. But the one thing I remember, the last time we were at Richmond, we were sitting up there in turn 3 with all our friends.
Right.
And I commented to you, and you said, yeah, the fans are coming around. They're coming into turn 2, and they're coming around to turn 3. I said, we're going to have to find another year or two. We're going to have to find a place to sit.
Yeah.
Well, that year they went, psst.
Right.
Now they're going back. I think, to me, that was one of the really, really good short track nighttime racing. Good.
Well, there's only one left, I think, that I'd like to get back to at some point that we don't go to anymore, and that's Watkins Glen. I was thrilled to death to hear that Richmond's coming back for a number of reasons. As you suggest, I think the interest is there. I think one of the things that benefits the series this time around is the track president is a huge IndyCar fan, and they are already tirelessly promoting that event. And for those that have not been, I would recommend it because just from a tourist standpoint, the historical perspective of that region, I mean, there's so much to see and do, and it's a great racetrack, not a bad seat in the house, and yeah, we're happy to be back at Richmond for sure. We look forward to it.
Being the busy guy that I am, have so much to do. I used to walk around in the grandstands in the parking lot and say, "What brings you here? These cars fast.
Yeah.
They're faster than NASCAR, really?
Yep.
I think under caution they're faster than NASCAR. Oh, this is really great racing.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to get around there for sure.
Are you going to come back? Yeah." And I guess they did because the crowd kept growing. They said, well, we're worried about Mark and Don up there. So we'll just stop it. I wasn't happy. What's new for you two this year, other than you take it over, but you've been doing essentially what you're going to be doing. Except now you can come with a tie and you don't have to wear gloves and operate and pull. What are you going to be doing different, Chris, now that you're a man?
And personally, what am I doing different?
Yeah, for the job.
For the job's a lot more administrative than it is production, radio production. Lining up affiliates and working with clients, and making sure our crew gets to where they're supposed to be on time, and their flights are taken care of, and their rental car and hotels and all that sort of stuff.
And I bet when you miss, they're all over you like a cheap suit.
Well, who said I'm going to miss anything?
Don't know. It happens.
I think too, as we've discussed, we've at least extended an offer to Sirius and XM to make more programming available to them with the full-time effort by Jack Harvey this year, and them being one of his sponsors. That deserves a round of applause for sure. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, Jack Harvey. It's a great story for sure.
The lady in that blue jacket is a huge Jack Harvey. When he comes in, she drools.
Well, she's probably not alone. She just makes it more noticeable than everyone else, I guess. I don't, but no, he's a class act for sure, and we're happy with our association with Sirius and XM and that race team. And I think we want to probably beef up our website and make that a little more interactive, and hopefully we can make our social media a little stronger and a little more active. And I think we've got a crew now in place that understands the importance of that and are willing to work with Chris to make those things happen.
Got a lot of people knocking on your door. Hey, we need to do this, huh?
There's a lot of that, yeah.
Do you sell sponsorships?
We'll take anybody's money.
My question is, do you go out and sell sponsorships?
Personally, no. IMS has a sales team that works for us, and we've got a couple other people who are taking care of all that.
All right. Well, I don't want you to say, well, we can't feed you over here, so I wouldn't want to listen to Mark on that one. Can't feed. It's interesting to me, and I've thought for a number of years when I was working with you and listening to how you broadcast, and when he was up in turn 3 or wherever he happened to be, he would be watching what's going on in the front. And my job, lucky me, was see who crashed in the back or whatever happened. Something happened, I'd poke him and say, here's this. Get a jump on the guys in the booth, or probably having the shrimp cocktail. So,
right.
And kept apprised of what was going on. And I have to say that when it was announced that you were taking over as the voice of the 500, I couldn't have been more happy if it had been me. And it wouldn't have been, but.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's an honor and a privilege for sure. The actual date was just here recently. My wife reminded me of it, and I'll never forget it. I was working as an event coordinator for a swim meet at Beech Grove High School, and Wally came and told me that the decision had been made, and that's the direction that they were going, and became the 6th in a little over 60 years. And it's certainly not a responsibility that we take lightly for sure. And I think while we have tried to, put some of our own spin on it, as every anchor has done. I think the thing that's important to each and every one of us is maintaining the integrity and the respect for those that came before us that made it possible for us to cover that event and cover it on the largest single-day network in the world.
Has Mr. Pence come over and talk to you folks, and is he interested in what you're doing? Is he looking to help you build it?
I've not seen him yet.
I saw a picture of him.
I have seen him.
I'm sure he's very well aware of who we are and what we do. I think that there are a lot of things that are getting his attention right now. But I know that at some point I expect that, a few of us at least will get an audience of some kind for sure. So.
Well, I think, what's your opinion of his taking over the stewardship?
Well, my litmus test was this: if he can accomplish what he's accomplished, in early June, if you can get 120 to 130,000 people to show up in Detroit for a race over a 3-day period, you can accomplish really, really incredible things here. I mean, and it's each and every year it gets better. The facilities have $13 million some odd dollars they pumped into Belle Isle up there, and have really turned it into a cool event.
And he's put a lot of that money up himself.
Absolutely. And I'm blessed to a former classmate of mine has been employed with Roger now for about 4 or 5 years, and he had nothing but glowing things to say. I mean, people rarely leave that organization because once they're in, and they enjoy being a part of it. And I think I think eventually Tony might be viewed, maybe not in the same vein, but it's kind of similar circumstances to like when there was some uncertainty surrounding the speedway. Wilbur Shaw came along and connected Tony Hallman to the place, and thankfully Tony George connected Roger Penske to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway last year at Laguna Seca or whatever it was, for sure. Yeah.
I would just add that we all know that Roger Penske's a winner. That's evident from watching him on track and his teams. But when you look behind the scenes at what he's done and all the businesses he's owned, and he's not a failure. Success in everything he does. So I don't think any of us have anything to worry about as far as his taking over the speedway and what he's going to do with it.
I saw him in an interview on television where he said, this May, we're going to invest $2 to $3 million in more activities for the fans, for entertainment. We're not doing it to make money. Oh, really? Next year and the year after, that's when you'll make the money. People say, wow, you got to come here. This is really cool. So, man is smart. And Doug Bowles commented weeks ago. He said, I didn't know there were so many bathrooms in this. We went to every single one.
Absolutely.
I thought maybe.
I hear he's got big plans for the bathroom. So.
Oh, repaint them, take the stalls out of those troughs out and replay. I don't know. How exciting. That means you got to try and aim at the thing and hit it. That's the next problem. Well, I wish you guys nothing but.
You're not going to end the show in the toilet, are you? Come on, Don. You got to end the show stronger than that.
Well, I figure I've been in the toilet more than once, so. You know, I think somebody back there wants to go to the John. Oh, Linda did. Oh, okay. How is it in there? Thank you. How you holding up, Glenn? Doing all right? Can you see here this far? Oh boy, okay. One of the premier observers turned 82. Old. Mary said, oh no, don't tell Don. She didn't. She saw it on Facebook. I don't see it, but she. All right. I have nothing but high regard for both of you. I saw you, Chris, the engineering truck when you were there, and managed to weasel out of it, get away from Wally, so you didn't have to hear him barking, I guess. Now you're back there with a suit and tie. Good for you. I think it's well deserved, and everything I ever saw that you did when I was hanging around, never had problems.
Thank you.
Glad to have you join the gang.
I'm definitely looking forward to this new role with the radio network. Challenges got ahead of me.
Worry, Mark will help you. Oh, every day, give him a call.
Why worry, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I mean, Michael Young, Jake Query, Nick Yeoman, why worry?
Those three make me worry.
What could go wrong?
Many things. Well, I wish you guys nothing but the best. I know that the network gets a lot of listeners, and I think under new direction and new ownership of the whole operation, I think things probably improve.
Don, you're a good friend. We appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk about the radio network. And again, appreciate you and all you do for motorsports at all levels. It's a great show, and we're honored and privileged to be a part of it whenever we get the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don.
Well, what more can you say? The engineer, director of the IMS radio network, Chris Pollock, and the voice of the 500, and the announced head man on all of the IndyCar races, Mr. Mark Jaynes. Remember, Joe and Linda, remember, one of my guests next week is Major Kirk Dooley. You'll find what he's doing, what he left. He was started out at IndyCar in security, I think. Then he moved to IMS because they said he's got too much. Now he's left, and what he's doing now you'll find very interesting. Until next week. And keep an eye on, I've got somebody who's teaching me how to do my website, which is a very slow process. But you can check autosportradio.com or go on Facebook. I'm on there. Don K. Show, and then the Autosport Radio Show. I have two Facebook pages. So until next week, thanks for coming out tonight. Thanks for being here. Thanks for you watching. Oh, by the way, I want to tell you something. There's a guy sitting back here, an older fella. Two things about him. Brian Wilcox told me last week, he said, do you realize Howdy Bell was the only one that's still around. It was at the 2019 when my great-grandfather won the 500. He's the only one. And and does anybody have insomnia? You can't sleep. Ever have that problem? Howdy gave me, what happened to this? Oh, Howdy gave me his world history on 2 pages. And I take it to bed at night, and I get about 4 lines in. I've tried it 4 days. I wake up in the morning, I got the paper in my face. If you're having trouble sleeping, you want to read this. It won't take you long to doze, trust me. Good night, Howdy. Good night to everybody. Thanks for being here.